fine.
Mm.
I will just sit quietly, listen to you, and do a wee bit of colouring.
How have you been finding the retreat, Don?
Yeah, it's been good so far. Thanks. Yeah, I haven't been able to make as much use of it as I'd like so far. I have a lot going on. I'm working this week. I wasn't able to take the week off, so I haven't been able to use much of the material yet. So it's just lovely to be able to connect with everyone and so on. But I haven't used much of. I guess a lot of people have expressed feeling overwhelmed with the amount of material, but I haven't made use of it yet, really. So I'd say it'll be useful over time, but I have a lot of things to yeah. I just kind of just about get myself together by 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it starts for me. I haven't caught up, so I'll have to make use of it later, I think, in the next few weeks. I have so many different embodiment kind of things that I can use. Yeah. Yeah. It's been. How about you? You can just connect in at certain lengths of time, certain parts of the day. You're not there the whole time because you're.
Yeah, I've just been going there to the support room when I get the opportunity, which hasn't been as much as I would have liked in the last couple of days. I've had to do other things as well. But
yeah.
You can't be up all night. Really good. It's been really good. Everybody that's come to that room has been really primed, and it's been excellent results. Yeah.
That's nice. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really done the exercises yet, and I don't know. I guess when I start doing them, I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to see how it goes in the next few weeks when I get a chance to do them, really, I suppose.
Well, you've got them forever. So it's just a case of using them, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I guess the thing is, I know, I don't know if I know, do I? But I suspect that body-based embodiment kind of stuff is super important.
Oh, yeah.
And yet, it's the number one thing I want to do to calm myself down. It's usually listening to an Angelo video until he reminds me about the present moment or whatever he'll do. Yep. And then I go, oh, yeah. And that's usually the fastest thing for me, instead of doing a half an hour of noticing what my body is doing. I feel I need to be calm already before I can start doing that.
Yep. Yeah. And somehow you've worked it that Angelo trips you into that place fairly easily, eh? The sound of his voice, or
not the sound. Yeah, no, it's more the things he says. And it isn't, sometimes it's fairly easy. Sometimes I'll be watching him for hours before something, not hours, but usually something he says, he'll just remind me.
Yep.
And yeah.
Get that. This is a good one. Get that what it reminds you of. Your mind is going to think that what it reminds you of is the content of whatever the story about that you're being reminded about is. But in fact, it's not the content of the story. That reminder triggers a feeling for you, and that feeling takes you really instantly, quickly into that place where you know.
Yep.
Yeah,
it does, and it's ridiculous how how I forget, so many. Like I was even saying to you, I was at some weeks ago, I was on this 1 week retreat with Lisa Cairns in Germany, and it was like, a whole week of listening to her. And yet it was walking down the hill to the retreat one day, I was listening to my iPod, and I think it was Pernilla who was interviewing Angelo, because I was re-listening to one of those things. And suddenly I was like, because of something he said, I was like, oh yeah, the present moment. I forgot. I was at a whole flipping non-duality retreat for the week, and I'd forgotten. I was in my thoughts the whole time, and then suddenly something he said, I was like, oh yeah, present moment. So that does that. And again, like on Thursday, I met Luciana, and she dragged me back, kicking and screaming, to the present moment for an hour and a half, and I was like, oh yeah, it's not too bad here. And so I started doing it myself yesterday a bit. Again, listening to Angelo, and but yeah, he was reminding me of, I mean, again, you know, I know at some point maybe I'll come back to go say, Vince, you were totally right, there was no effort needed. But I just I was and still I was listening to Angelo, one of his ones yesterday that I had heard 6 or 12 months ago, about like, if you're a really frustrated seeker, what might be the reason. And he talks about the single pointed practice or something like that I don't fully understand, but it sounds kind of like you just fucking sit there and focus and don't stop. And that's all. Yeah. And I was just going, yeah, what is Moo? And I was listening to what is Moo, and it's like, yeah, what I was, not that I understand, not, I guess you're not supposed to understand what is Moo anyway, but I was just going, yeah, I gotta sit here and bloody well pay attention to this and ignore my mind for so long that my mind gets bored, however long that takes. It hasn't happened yet, but anyway, but it happens for a few seconds every now and then, and I go, oh yeah, it's not too bad here. And then the mind is just trying to find 100 ways to distract me and tell me how important it is.
Well, that's okay. That happens. But I just love the fact that you are experiencing those little moments, and they are changing things, whether you don't realize it because it's not big time, but it is changing things.
Yeah, hopefully. So I was able to, just even like to remind myself that I was able to, well, I guess with the help of a video yesterday, it doesn't often happen that I can get back from confusion without the help of somebody. And
somebody
like Luciana
interacting with,
yeah. So yesterday I was able to do it, but mostly because I had a really horrendous day and I was incredibly depressed all day long. I was like, bloody hell, I'm going to have to do this no matter what. And so I was listening to Angelo videos until I was like, I'm gritting my teeth now. I'm going to just stay here. And I kind of calmed myself down. But it took a proper 4 hours of really gritting my teeth. And saying, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to ignore every single thought I can possibly manage to ignore for the whole rest of the day. And that kind of did it. But it's oh my gosh, you know.
I love your persistence. You know, you just, wow, you really got your teeth into this, and it's been that way for a long time. Yeah.
I'm waiting to get over the hump. You know, I think there's a hump. There has to be a hump I get over where it sort of starts to happen automatically every now and then without hours and hours of effort.
Oh yeah, well, you're still making that stupid connection between your effort and what's happening. They're happening parallel. They're not connected.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see it.
I know you don't. Yeah. Well, your way works, doesn't it? Let's go.
I don't know what works. Hardly anything works, but this is the only thing I can find so far that sort of almost works.
Yeah. But when you listen to Angelo, you're not working, are you? You know, or is it a chore to do that?
Yeah. No, not really. No, I haven't. No, it isn't. No, he just reminds me all the time, over and over, everything he says. I don't know why him particularly, but almost everything he says reminds me all the time.
Yeah, but I'm pointing out to you that there's no work involved in that, is there? No effort involved in that. Listening to him is easy.
Yeah. That's true. It's not too bad. I still feel, though, I know you laugh, but I still feel like I can listen to him in a distracted, lazy way, or in a kind of a slightly more concentrated way.
Of course, both of those things or one of those things will happen. Again, there is no connection with your intention to make that happen. They just happen parallel, you know.
Okay.
Once you get over this control freak thing, you'll find that you don't even have to have the intention and things will happen. I mean, you know, if something happens, you've got to quickly whip up an intention so you can claim it.
Maybe it's too unbearable to imagine that I can't get out of weeks and weeks and weeks of feeling miserable.
Yeah.
Was that, you know, it's just a matter of fate that something will happen at random at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I think, you know, if I'd like to get you in a corner and have a look at this too horrible, this unbearable thing that you all of this effort is about keeping away from that. That's all it is. Yeah.
It's mostly stories. If I didn't tell or believe the stories, I'd be going, it's not really that unbearable. It's just I'm telling unbearable stories and making myself increasingly miserable.
Yeah, and you've got this worked out pretty well, because you've got stories on stories on stories that one validates the next one, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I tell myself off for telling the stories or believing them or telling the layers and layers of stories, you know, and I think it must be me doing it. Who else is doing it?
No, stupid question. Who else is doing it? Of course, nobody else is doing it. Of course, you're not doing it. It's just happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay not to believe that.
It's funny how, though, yesterday, for example, it was like, well, seemingly, right, to use one of these words I'm supposed to use all the time, seemingly, when I decided I had to take responsibility for not getting distracted, that was when I spent 4 hours not getting distracted.
Yeah.
It seemed like that. It seemed like I had to really get pissed off at myself, going, I need to take responsibility and not keep believing events and people telling me they're not your thoughts, it's not your fault or something. I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. And then I did it. It seemed like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
And I get it. I get that it seemed like that, you know? How many times have you told yourself that you are going to do something and then it hasn't happened?
Oh, that's the story of my life. That's the number one thing I do.
Yeah, so I don't
tell
need
myself I'm going to do something and then don't do it. Yeah.
So what does that do to the argument about being able to do it when you choose to do it? When you just tell me that you choose to do it many times and it doesn't work out.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
You're actually in control. You're always in control. It's not control if it's hit and miss, is it?
No, it doesn't make sense. And yet it still sounds plausible because I was brought up that way or something.
I go along with that, and that's okay. You know, I'm not going to try and take off you what you feel to be true, what you believe to be true. You can keep that until you're ready to throw it away. I'm not going to try and take it off you.
It feels like, I just say for now, yeah, I'm arguing, but anyway, what it feels like is if I believe that no effort is needed, I reduce, it seems like relax or something. And when I relax, it's just, seems to me that what happens is the patterns just go on and on. Whereas to stop the patterns takes concentration and effort and whatnot. Don't know.
Yeah.
And it takes vigilance even when I'm in the seemingly present moment.
So what seems like
just stay there. Yeah. I was watching, did you watch? Maybe because you're busy this week, but David J, I don't know what J stands for. David J was talking to Colette Barnes Whiteman recently. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
She's an English lady who I don't know if you've seen her, but she was talking to the other David Bingham at some point or other. Anyway, she makes the odd video, but David J was talking to her recently, and I was just watching that this morning. It was nice to watch. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, but she was kind of leading him to just look at the more and more subtle ways that his mind was just starting to create something, create a person or create a hook. And I watched that for an hour. It was interesting to watch. But there was a lot of, it looked like a fair bit of, I don't know if you'd call it effort, but a lot of, I don't know, focus or something, or attention required to keep seeing and seeing what I think I could see some little few of the things she was pointing at. But it didn't look like it would happen without any effort whatsoever until afterwards. I always feel like that after. I always feel like there's an afterwards. After the threshold or the watershed has been passed, then it's easier. That's probably bullshit. I'm just making it up.
Oh, I think it's probably a reasonable expectation, that one. In my experience, I would say it is, yeah. But easy is also a rather interesting thing to look at. But let's not do that now. Yeah.
I sent you that video, Vince.
Sorry, go on.
I did send you that video on Messenger, what Don was talking about.
Oh, okay. Right. Thank you. Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that. I didn't get to look at it yet, but yeah. Right. Yeah. So, Don, could you, I'm not asking you to actually do it. I'm asking you just to think whether or not well, I want you to play with the idea anyway. Could you imagine what you're going to be like after you wake up and you discover that you don't have to put any effort into anything, that life will just do its thing around you, in you, whatever, and everything will be absolutely as it is? Can you imagine being in that place? Or is that so impossible to imagine that you can't even get a version of it?
I can kind of almost just a little bit, like a few percent worth, even from now. There's a certain amount of peace here now, but it feels like it can be taken away at any moment by whatever random set of thoughts.
Yeah. That's the curse of success. We've got to worry about losing it. Yeah.
And then I do imagine that, but then I go into a daydream, and that's being taken away into fantasy land again. So I don't know what.
Well, my immediate reaction to that is, so what? But I'm interested in, are you aware of the fact that you're in fantasy land with it? If you are, it's great entertainment. And I don't see any negatives if you're using it for entertainment. If you're trying to tell yourself it's real, that's another story. But if you're just being entertained with it, just off in pure fantasy for entertainment purpose, great. Cheaper than Netflix.
Yeah, I know it's now sometimes the fantasy isn't terrible, but it's just that I guess it feels like it's been a pattern of escaping from life.
It feels like you shouldn't be doing it. Yeah, okay, yeah. So here's the thing, what you said was really casual, and it feels like, right? But that's where the juice is, in the it feels like, right? So a feeling is a sensation plus stories. So let's have a look at the sensation, and let's have a look at what stories are there. And when we finish that job, there you go. You can have it as a job if you want. When you finish that job, then you go, well, what's left? What does it look like now?
Tell me that again. What job am I doing? Not doing.
It's you're focusing on the fact that you're getting carried away by fantasy. Right? You're off in your stories in your head, right? And you're talking about that like it's a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing, right? But to get involved in what the thoughts are about, that's a bit of a waste of time, because that's not where the juice is. The juice is in what triggered those thoughts. Why did they turn up? We're not after an answer. We're not after an answer to what turned up, but that's where the juice is. That's where you if you take your focus to that, it will be productive. Whereas if you stay involved in what the story is about, it definitely won't be productive. It'll be counterproductive.
Yeah, no, that's true. The only way I can find of not getting involved is to, just I mentioned what is moo today from yesterday, which I every now and then come back to. And it seems like there's no what was I saying? There's only, if I can even, I mean, sometimes I'm so confused I can't find any seeming present, but it seems like if I ask what is moo and there's no answer, and it's just whatever this is, and mind can't grasp it at all. It's just being present without any thinking or interaction with things or people, or that, like, it's only that silence is the only safe place. There isn't a single thing or person or thought that's safe, that won't become a story about something basically negative. So the only place that's safe is keep asking what is moo and go, there's no answer, I'm just going to stay here. And everything else, the tiny little contraction of thinking or the mind going, let's figure this out, let's tell a sad story, let's work out why this, let's try to figure out how to do this better. Every little bit of that is just nope.
Good stuff. Yeah, good that you can say no to that. That's trying to distract you. Yeah, I
can't always say. That's why I have to grit my teeth, because there's a lot of it going on. And but
well, nobody expects all the time. Nobody expects 100%. So if you accept that it happens one time out of 100, and you can appreciate that one time, guess what? Next thing it'll be 2 times out of 100 or 4 times out of 100. It'll increase, just because of your appreciation of that little moment when it happened once out of 100. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that's true. The thing, I think now that I think about it, there are times when I'm convinced of what I've just been telling you just now, which is that I'll just be present and do my whatever self-inquiry meditation and just keep doing it as long as I can. And that's the only thing that'll help, or that's all I need to do. And then there's other times when a story comes and says, a pattern I've seen for years or even decades is that there's some fear of the present moment in my system from childhood stuff or something, and this just often seems to be a reaction to being present that causes enormous amounts of distraction to happen for days or weeks at a time. And then I think I need to go and figure that out. I need to go and do some therapy. I need to go, like, as if I haven't spent decades doing that already. Part of me kind of thinks, yeah, I do need to figure that out, because it does seem like a pattern. So as of today, I'm going, I can feel fairly clear and present today. But I may have said that to you last Sunday. Like, I remember 4 weeks ago having 2 clear days, and then followed by 4 weeks of confusion. And that's a pretty standard pattern for me for the last decade or more, 2 decades of therapy.
I have 2 days therapy. Yeah.
A couple of days of something would go well. I go, oh, that's so good, I must do that again. And then weeks worth of depression and anxiety and confusion follow. And I don't see this pattern of this is improving, this is getting better. I'm getting more frequent clarity and less frequent confusion. And so a belief has built up saying there's a reaction of some kind in my system that goes, the present is scary, let's distract Don from that. Whenever he finds a way of getting to be present, let's find a way of distracting him. And it's maybe pointless to think like that, but it upsets me.
I like it because it's your thoughts. It knows exactly where all the buttons are to push. So it's very powerful stuff. Very powerful. Yeah. But I can't help but celebrate the fact that you see that stuff happening. You do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah. Yeah, thanks. So I'm feeling fairly, relatively okay today for me. So that's a good thing. So yeah.
I'd like you to put more. I'd like you to put some. I'd like you to put some effort into creating a story of what it will be like when you wake up. All right, so next time I see you, if I remember, if I don't, you tell me.
Yeah. All right.
I'll get you to tell me just a one paragraph story about what it will be like when you wake up. Right. Now,
Okay.
but I'm going to ask you not for woo-woo stuff. I'm going to ask you for how it will feel to you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see. Yeah.
Just
I'll
let it mull around and see what comes up. Yeah.
okay.
Mm.
Yeah. I'll write something down, or I'll yeah. Okay. Thank you. Give it a go.
Mm. Do we call you Di or Sylvia or iPhone Di?
What does it say? iPhone something?
Yeah, iPhone Di Sylvia Casardi.
It's always Sylvia. It's
Yeah.
just that my computer didn't want to work.
Okay.
So I'm connecting through the telephone. I see you very, very small. I hardly see you.
What do we call you? Di?
No, die means of. In
Oh, okay.
Italian, die means belongs to.
Okay, it's your iPhone. Gotcha. Yes. So you're Sylvia, are you?
I'm Sylvia.
Yes. Hi, Sylvia.
Hello.
If you turn your iPhone sideways, horizontally, you'll get a bigger picture. Oh, it didn't flip back. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. One of your settings. Yeah.
I had quickly to download at the very last moment. I downloaded Zoom onto the iPhone, so I'm not acquainted. Probably it's blocked somewhere.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Never mind. I can
Yeah.
hear you and I can see you a little. Your little faces.
Yeah,
I
okay,
still
yeah.
recognize you.
Great. Yeah.
I'm getting acquainted to Don, to you, to Anna, to Kelly, and John Lee. I can see, and then there is Blanca, but she's behind the photograph.
Yeah, that's Bianca, that one. Yes.
Yes, Bianca, yes,
and Ramis.
and Dennis I have seen before, and Ramis I know he's from Egypt, so I remember you, even though I don't see you very well.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you and good to hear your voice, and I can hear you quite clearly. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So tell us where you're up to on this journey.
Well, I'm still doing my homework, quite trying to be a good student, I am, with this waking up, with this fright. It has happened during the last 2 nights, not only in the morning, even in the night, various times at nighttime, because I guess I'm pretty sure because something was triggered around my daughter.
Yes.
And I haven't talked about this one before, but I guess it always goes back to my very first birth trauma somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my daughter is now, I have 2 kids, a son a little bit older and a daughter of 31.
Mm-hmm.
She has a story of abuse, sexual abuse, since she was 10 years old. She didn't tell me because it was by a group of peers, not really peers, the other ones were a bit older. It started like on the playground. And then they told her, don't tell your mom, because we live in a little village. And so they told her, don't tell your mom, because if your mom knows about this, then you won't have any friends left in the village. So she didn't tell me.
Yes.
And so this became a big thing, big during the years, not with the same people, but she became like feeling, how can I say, she identified with being a victim. She sort of ended up attracting this kind of story.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
And well, it became a big issue. There were trials, there were many big things. She was even kidnapped when she was 16 and a half by two grown-up people my age.
Yep.
A man and a woman who could have been her parents. So it was just awful what happened. They were perverted people.
Yep.
Like in sadistic stuff, and it was just terrible. So she ended up having a psychiatric diagnosis, because she was, at the beginning, she had a whole lot of diagnoses. One doctor didn't agree with the other one and stuff. So just what happened is that this week I had to go back reading through the diagnosis because of a legal thing that we had to do. I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's not very interesting, but I had to go through the diagnosis, and it stirred up a lot of things for me. In the meanwhile, my daughter, she is a bit strange. For common people, she's a bit strange. She had an awakening a few years ago, and she's trying to. Obviously, she had her honeymoon, where it looked as if she did never have trauma during her honeymoon, which lasted about 2 months, exactly 2 months. And then the whole thing came back. Now I'm trying to guide her a little bit through these things that are stirred up, together with a therapist. It's just that in the last few days, I reading all this stuff, it created such a contraction. And so at nighttime, I would wake up various times with this big contraction. I was afraid, during those years when she was 16, 17, 18, I was afraid for her life, because she talked about committing suicide. And also I was afraid about she would lose her mind, which she did partly. At night, when I would just wake out of sleep with this big thing here, I was just trying to feel it, just stay with the body and feel it until I fell back to sleep. I would sleep an hour or so. I don't know, I didn't look at the clock, but feeling was I did sleep for a while, an hour or two, and then I would wake up again, same sensation. So go back to feel it. That's what I am dealing with,
Okay, I get that. Yeah. So tell me, how are you? What process do you use when you say you go back to feeling it? I want to know more about what you were doing when you were feeling it. Are you sure you were feeling the sensation, or were you feeling something more like fear, or anxiety, or how would you put what you were feeling? Could you describe what you were feeling for me?
What I was feeling would change from, well, usually when I would wake up from sleep, there was this feeling of fright in my chest. And then I would just, breathe and, like let it be. And then I would start, sometimes I would start to have like, how do you call that? Twinkling or something? Vibrations, vibrations in
Vibrating, yes. Yeah.
in various parts of the body, which was not really not unpleasant at all.
Mhm.
That was usually the point where I would fall asleep again.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
And then it will repeat itself. So, I just, a question that comes up is actually, is it, I'm experiencing it again and again. Is it because I cannot feel it fully? I'm not able, it's too strong, it's too overwhelming. Maybe, I don't know. I don't even feel it that overwhelming anymore, like at those times.
Yeah. Now, see, what I can only tell you what comes up for me, what pops into what comes out of my mouth, because I don't even think about it. But the phrase that jumped out at me when what you were just talking then was that you feel this terror. Did you say terror? I don't remember now what the exact word you said was.
No, I didn't say it, but you could use that word.
Yeah, okay. Now, what word did you use? It's fright. Fright.
A fright.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this is a really tricky one. When you put what fright is fairly complicated. There's a whole lot of bits and pieces of stuff to it, right? When the word fright is a label that kind of encompasses all of those bits and pieces, right? But when we say that we're experiencing fright, that label generates a feeling for us to feel that is fairly unpleasant, right? It's the label that generates the feeling for you to feel, the feeling that you said you were feeling. So you'll get this feeling that you will call fright. But that's not what you're actually feeling. That was a generated feeling generated by the label fright, because fright makes sense to you. Right? So what I want to do is to get you to bypass the label fright, or any label that turns up, but bypass that label and look at what it's pointing at. And it's going to be pointing at a sensation and stories. And they're hooked up together, those two things. The sensation and the stories are connected. They validate each other as well. But that sensation is what you need to be honing in on, getting closer and closer, looking at it in more and more detail. That sensation is the feeling that the label fright pointed towards, but it was a fair way away from it, So if we can get into that sensation, we will also see what the stories are, right? And in your case, it may well be a birth story, or who knows what it will be, but it will certainly be from before, somewhere from before. But the trick is, the moment we get involved in the content of the story, it takes us away from what's going on.
Yes.
So when we're talking about your daughter, we're not really talking about your daughter, although that is a heart-wrenching story, but that's about your daughter. That's not the issue. The issue is you. It's all about you. It's about how you respond to what this triggers for you, and what your daughter's situation triggers stuff in you.
Yes.
that you, your inclination is to get away from it, which is normal, you know, to avoid that monster under the bed, that horrible, horrible potential that you never quite see clearly, but you just know it's well, you'll die if you go there. It's that big.
It's exactly as you say, because I know that this story of my daughter is triggering something that goes back to my birth. I know. And I also know that the story connected to that is a struggle, like
Yes.
a wanting like something that wants to live and maybe doesn't want, and wants and doesn't want to,
Yep.
wants
Yeah,
to die, doesn't want. It's like
I get it.
like
I get
this.
it. Yep. Hours and hours in the birth canal, absolute exhaustion. I get it. I do.
So everything that is triggered here is that same feeling. There are various different subjects that continue to trigger me, and when it comes down to the feeling, it's always that same feeling. Although the situations might be different, the triggers might be different,
Yeah.
but it's always
Takes you
that
back to that.
same
Yeah.
sensation of dying, not wanting to die, or maybe wanting to die, or it's
Yes,
like a
yeah.
knot. But really, Vince, I mean, guide me. What can I do? Because I'm stuck in this since years.
Mm.
And you know, I'm really trying to put all my awareness into this, and
So,
as it happened, and trying to see through maybe beliefs that are there. I have not
yeah, okay.
succeeded.
Yeah, that's where you're making it way too complicated. So are you seeing now, if you look back at just the last couple of minutes, that you were talking about the story again? Right? Although you
Yes.
were paying homage to the fact that that was triggering you, your focus was in the story.
Yeah.
So
Because
what I want to know is that what you've told me so far is that there is this feeling of wanting to die, not wanting to die, wanting to die, not wanting to die. You know, that I get it. I get it. I get at a point where you go, is dying going to be better than this? Kind of, who knows, you know? Is it a feeling of being trapped, or just a feeling of exhaustion? I get that there's definitely exhaustion there. What is that sensation that this triggers for you?
trapped is a very
Trapped?
good word.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So
It's,
with that comes suffocation.
sometimes exhaustion can come up, not now, but sometimes it has come up. It can come up, I know, but now it is trapped. Is the word. Yes.
Yep. And when we think about trapped, we get helpless.
Yes.
Absolutely no control.
Yes.
Now we can be in this situation and fight it, or we can be in this situation and be just resolved to the fact that it may be our end, or anywhere in between those two kind of things, you know, or maybe others as well. But your feeling with that wanting to die, not wanting to die, sounds to me like you're giving up.
My my feeling is not of giving up. My feeling is more of a compulsion to fight.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. So you're not that exhausted yet. You've still got that bit of juice there to go. Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. Now, the natural, normal thing to do would be to try and get out of it, to try and end it. But there's another alternative that is good, that works really well. And that alternative is to not put any effort into trying to end it or trying to fix it, but rather to focus on accepting it. Now, I don't mean accepting it with in a resigned way either. I mean a willing, even inviting kind of acceptance of the fact that this is here and there's no denying that fact. Even though we don't know exactly what it is, we know that it's there and we can't do anything about it. It's just there. That's it. Been there a long time. Now, maybe it will change, maybe not. It's worth considering if it doesn't change, if you're stuck with this for the rest of your life, can you go on? Can you live with it?
I can.
Yes. Yeah. There's an irony in this, and that is that the moment we stop trying to fix these things, they change. While ever we try to fix them, we just make them stronger.
Yes. That has proven to be true in my story various times. And still there is a habit
Yes.
here.
Yep.
There is a habit, the habit of trying to fix. It's very strong.
Yes. Yeah.
Of wanting things to be fine, you know. This is a very strong thing here. And so I'm just realizing that, yes, you know, I might, to give up, I might as well, first of all, give up this. Not give up the wanting to fix, but just give up that things might change, you know, just not, you know, accept that it might go on like that, as you say. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, well, to give up is not something you can do.
Yeah.
It will happen or not. Who knows?
Or not.
But it's, if you try and do it, that's just another attempt to fix something, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
We trick ourselves all the time with this stuff. That mind is so clever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when I woke up, it was because a recognition happened that the only thing that is actual what others might call reality, is in fact what I experience as I'm experiencing it. So there is experiencing, and that is the only reality. But, you know, if I take my awareness to some experience, there's a lag from the experience. The experience is finished by the time my awareness rests on it and I realize what it is that I'm experiencing. It's pretty quick, you know, but it's in the past. What I become aware of is always finished. It is always in the past, you know, and it's a really easy step from there to go, so what happens if you want it to be different? You just simply add suffering to the story. It's what Pernilla will call a post-it note on reality. You're just putting, okay, I want to be happy, write it on the post-it note and stick it on reality. That's kind of what goes on. And so if you recognize that there's absolutely 0 point in wanting whatever turns up to be different, then along comes this opportunity for a willing, inviting surrender, acceptance of everything. And then all of a sudden there is no fight anymore. That's gone. That fighting is gone. And that allows change to happen. Because see, change, the lack of change was the result of it fighting back us trying to change it. And as soon as we stop trying to change it, it's got nowhere to go. So it just dissolves. Things will happen, things will change. But the idea of them changing and fixing, you just keep putting it in the background. Go away. It's a habit to be in the foreground, but we don't need you. We know you're there. We know there's an intention to fix it. We know there's an intention to get better. We want to get better. We know there's hope and desire about that, or rejection of the bad ones. We know all of that. Just push them into the background. Right? They're not to be engaged with. They're just stories that turn up like clouds in the sky turn up. You know, we don't know where they come from or why they're there. They're just there. And the next thing they're gone again because we didn't engage with them.
Right.
Now that sounds like a lot of doing, but it'll happen or not. And if you're relaxed, then maybe a seed will sprout. You know, maybe something will happen. But that's your best chance to get at what's going on here. Right? So what happened to you in that birth canal? That memory's in your body. It's too early to have formed in your mind. There was no actual mind there, because a lot of that kind of memory requires language, and you had no language at that stage. And so it was your body that remembers this stuff. And so your body is what's going to express it and be done with it. And you'll do that by chasing the sensation, what's underneath the labels, whatever you call that label, whatever. As soon as you realize you've used a label, go, that's a diversion. What's it pointing to? What are the sensations underneath that? What are the stories that hang off that sensation? Yeah. And it takes a bit of practice. Yeah.
Hmm.
You'll get it.
Hmm.
You've already got the tools. You know, that waking up experience that you had, that gives you tools. That gives you a perspective that a lot of people don't have. You know, it gives you the option to be curious and not come to conclusions about things.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Vince.
Okay. now it's a case of let's just see what happens over the next few days or whatever. Yeah. Just be curious. Don't, when you find yourself with expectations, just tell them to go away and stay in the background. You don't need them at the moment because you don't really know what's going to happen. Let's just see.
Okay.
And something we haven't really mentioned that we might get to at a later date is that part of you that just really wants to fix something for your daughter, really wants that to be different. Yeah. How you going, Kelly?
Hey everyone. Bit confused. I feel like I'm getting more used to body work, but I felt last night like I was playing whack-a-mole. There was a lot of sensation and I was getting confused where to go. I had tingles all over, and it just felt really overwhelming and confusing. I feel like, my mind tells me I maybe did one right. It was in my leg, and I felt like a release there. But I felt almost like I was just chasing almost. And there was quite a heaviness in my body. And I think these are probably, I presume, hooks. So I suppose when I feel them, I'll be lighter. Oh, that's what my mind's telling me anyway. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I am. I'm just going to keep doing body work, and I've got this massive thing. I know I've got to start ignoring my mind. It just keeps telling me, "Oh, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right." And I think that's where the doubt and confusion comes. But there's kind of a knowing in me. It knows, like the leg thing last night, that felt right. I did feel a release there. I think I was just chasing the others and getting confused. So any thoughts on that?
Well, what comes up for me is about the tingles that you got over the body. That felt like maybe like static electricity.
Yeah, I get that quite a lot, and then I get the body, really a heaviness in the body. Kind of reminds me when I was a kid, I used to get sleep paralysis.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, and that used to terrify me when I was a kid. Waking up and my body being asleep, it used to terrify me. Whereas I feel like now I can rest in that space, and it helps actually feeling the sensations, because then I feel like my mind's got something to do instead of letting the terror in. But then, my mind can be very negative, and I know you've said to me, ignore what the mind says, it's full of whatever. But I still...
Just let me jump in here. Let's polish that a little bit, right? I don't want you to ignore. It's it's kind of got you kind of got at that, but I don't want you to ignore what the thoughts or what the mind is saying. I want you just to not engage with it.
Right, I'm with you. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
They're not bad. They're not our enemy. They are just misguided
yeah, yeah,
thoughts. Now, they think they're helping you by keeping you away from something.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
way
I
into
feel
that
like
something is the
I
sensation.
feel like what I tend to do is either I ignore my thoughts totally, or I get totally engaged with them. It'd be
Right.
nice to, get in middle.
Yep,
Not
yep.
all the time. Sometimes, I do.
Well, of course that happens. That's pretty normal stuff. Okay, so the thing is, when it happens, it always ends.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
some point, it always ends, and that's the time to go. Ah, I was lost in that. Ha
Mm,
ha ha.
yeah, yeah,
Right? That's the time to do that. What it also does is it takes away the morality police. It takes away the idea of, oh, that was bad to have that or good to have that or whatever, So
yeah,
what we're doing is we're stepping outside of it in order, when we recognize that that moment we're outside of it, we're not in it anymore. And so because
yeah.
we're outside of it, then it would be really good if that triggered a thought in you that came up that said, I wonder what triggered this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we're not looking for an answer. We just want to wonder about it. Right? I know that's kind of a bit hard to grasp, but it's like, everybody's inclination is to take any unpleasant feeling and finish it. Let's get rid of it. But it's there for a reason. It's there for a good reason. And it's trying to tell you something. It's your friend, it's your helper, it's trying to tell you something.
try to be felt in it so I can let it go, and then
Yes.
it's another release. It's another hook gone into it. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I think.
Yeah.
I feel.
And what we're talking about is 1,000 times things happening, 1,000 times getting lost, 1,000 times recognizing that we were lost, 1,000 times feeling little moments of really nice feelings of good stuff, 1,000 times, all little, tiny little things that last for seconds sometimes. But everyone changes you.
Back to the sensations. I feel like now I can go to the sensation,
Mm-hmm.
and I quite like that. Because I think in my mind's still quite strong at doing. So my mind likes that anyway. It gives my mind something to do, go into the sensation. But I think why my mind tells me that it's not doing it right is there isn't always a story, with the sensation.
Well, there is, but there isn't one that you can see always. Sometimes you can't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's always a story there. But remember, stories don't have to be text. They don't have to be words in your mind. They can be pictures, they can be feelings, they can be all sorts of things that are really subtle, and they're still thoughts, they're still generated by the mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea that nothing is wrong. You can never do anything wrong. It's impossible to do anything wrong. For two reasons. The first one is because those things you consider wrong are actually opportunities for you to investigate something where there's a bit of juice. Right? And the second reason why they can't be wrong is because there's no such thing as right or wrong. That's just a concept that society has developed.
Yeah.
Different societies have different ideas of right and wrong. So it's purely a construct. collective mind, if you like, at work there.
Yeah.
And as you get liberated from being captive by that, you can start to question it.
Right.
Once upon a time, they would have burnt you at the stake or treated you as a something if you got into this stuff. But not anymore, I hope.
So just keep going to the sensations, just keep
Yes.
doing.
And remember,
that.
just like I was saying with Sylvia, remember to not get stuck on a label.
Mm.
So let me have a little rant about this one again, just because it is good. It's good to know, even when we know it as knowledge before the experience kind of kicks in a little. And that is, let's say we're walking along a path, and what comes up in front of us is this image, and the brain goes, "It's a tree," right?
Mm.
Now, the brain is what they call a predictive organ, and that is that it takes the smallest amount of information that it needs in order to make up what's going to happen, right? And then it checks how good it is against what actually happens, and it gets pretty bloody good at predicting what's there. So when all it took for you to say the word tree, for your brain to say the word tree, was this swathe of green sitting on a stick kind of thing. Those two bits of information, and your brain went, "Oh, that's a tree." Now, from that moment, it's the tree in your brain that you relate to, right? That idea you've got of a tree, and so and it's unique to you because it's your filters, your interpretation of it all, how you felt about trees, how you felt all your life about this tree or that tree. You know, you like this certain kind of tree and don't like this other kind of tree and whatever, you know. There's all these details there, but that's what you relate to, right? Until you go close and stand right next to that tree and look at it and see details in what you're looking at, in the bark, right? Or you touch the bark with your fingertip, or you smell of the tree, or whatever. Then you're engaging with the actual tree. And when you do, let's say you're touching the bark and you're feeling the texture of the bark, you know, depending on whether it's smooth or it's rough or something, but you're feeling the texture of the bark. There's no tree. What there is sensation in your fingertips and light coming in your eyes and probably smells in your nose and other sensations, like you might be in the shade or who knows, you know. But that's what there's no actual tree in your experience, because tree is a concept.
It's you're putting the label on.
You're putting the label on it, and you relate to the label. And if you can get past that, what you get to is, let's say you touch it, you're getting sensations in your fingertips. That's your experience. Nowhere is there tree. We have to imagine that all these bits and pieces that we can't even reach to touch, all these bits and pieces add up to this thing called a tree. But you know, that's purely in your mind. Your experience is not that.
Right.
So the whole point of that story was to say, every time you use a label of convenience about what you're feeling, it's a way of not feeling it.
It
So when you
keeps you
say,
awake.
I feel anxiety, or I feel fear, or I feel whatever you come up with, whatever word you come up with, that's not what you're actually feeling. That's just the label that you're relating to. Now you can relate to that label and have a response to that label. That's big. You can have a fear reaction to that label because you don't know it's a label. You think it's the real thing until you look, right? And now because
But
we've
that
been
label
through this
keeps us
story,
distant.
yeah,
Yeah. Whereas if you remove and go near the sensation, you're
Yes.
nearer, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
and of course that sensation to be there was triggered, but it was given meaning by the stories that hang off it. And as soon as you see that those stories are just bullshit mind things, the sensation can't have any existence. It'll change. It'll probably dissipate. It'll go away.
Mm.
Right? But guess what? It'll reveal something. You know, it may reveal it in a tangible way, or it may reveal it with really vague, out of focus kind of images or ideas. They'll just, so your intuition is how you'll get the revelations that come from that stuff.
Right.
But they're not necessary. They're a gift if they happen. Right? It's only necessary that you understand, that you really grok the fact that this is stuff that came from before, when you did not have the tools to cope with it.
Right. Yeah.
But now you do. Now you do have the tools to cope with it. Yeah. Go,
Now
Sylvia.
I can get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Can I say
Like,
I would like to say something
Yes, please.
to this. I just realized, I know about how much a label can influence you, but a label can even be a somewhat blur label. Like if I wake up and my first thought is this sensation again, that
Yes.
has become my label,
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
and that keeps it alive.
Yes. Absolutely. So it may not be sitting on anything other than that label that you created. So you wake up with the expectation, maybe a slight question mark. Is it going to happen again? Is it going to happen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Even a simple question mark could become a label,
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
or
Beautiful.
exclamation, maybe exclamation mark. Yes. Oh, I just realized this.
Yeah, that's a good
How
one. I like that.
interesting.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
so that it's the labels that keep us further
Keep us
into
away. Absolutely. They're diversions. They're decoys. Yeah.
whereas it
Now,
they stop us getting through it, don't they? Yeah.
they're also useful if we're down the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know, we
Yeah.
don't want to say to the grocery man, you know, we want that thing in the plastic that's brown and crunchy, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe I'm getting rid of labels. I've got a thing at the moment. It makes Anne laugh. I just keep saying thingy.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
she's like,
That's a good one. I
don't
like
know
that. Yeah.
what Polly, but thingy.
Yeah. Me and my wife do that all the time, you know. And if one of us forgets what something's called, the other one will forget it too. So neither of us can come up with what it is. It's amazing. Yeah. But we both know what we're talking about. That thing, the thingy. We do. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Vince. That was brilliant.
No worries.
Something to sink my teeth in.
How have you been, Dennis? You look a bit different. I don't know, you've done your hair differently or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's just probably hi Vince, hi everybody. Yeah, it's probably just from a shower. That's all. It's just wet.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hasn't dried off yet. Oh, that made me laugh. The thingy. Jesus, yeah. Me and my wife do the same thing. We could be saying, "Do you know that film?" And both of us know exactly what film, but we can't say the name.
Yeah,
It's in our heads.
yeah, it's amazing.
You're both amazed that each other know exactly what film you're on about when you just said, "You know that film?" It could be 10 years old.
Yeah.
No, that was good. That was good. Just kind of seeing what comes up. I'd been listening and I was writing some stuff down. And I had it. You said it already, which is funny because you said it after I wrote it down. And it was building from listening to Don when I came on first. What if nothing is wrong? What if nothing is wrong? And when someone said that to me the other day, it was like a stopping, a sort of, oh. And the only way I can describe it, it's like the director comes on the scene after the scene is over and goes, and cut. And everyone's like, okay, so that's all over. We were only acting. So kind of sitting with that and noticing lately, because it was a good week and there was lots of positive things, but not getting too high with it. And in the last while, I would have been saying not getting too low with things at the same time. So not getting low, not getting high, kind of staying in the middle, kind of naturally, not on purpose or trying to be still, just what should I say, slowly deflating. Feeling clearer about things. Being called to do things better, I should say, or do things right. Like even this morning, I was lying in and I was listening to the start, and I was just going to listen. And as soon as I listened to people talking and sharing, I was like, right, get yourself sorted and participate, be here, be part of it. The other night I was out with a friend and having a beer and just really noticed the behavior of the other and the sort of subtle manipulations and just game playing, and just I was like, God, and I found myself kind of pushing back and standing up for myself and saying no, and being really clear about what I wanted, what I was going to do, and what I thought, and it was very nice and very empowering, want of a better word.
So that's not the way you would normally have been?
Well, I might have tried to be more subtle and compassionate and more collegial and just but born out of a sense of lack or being found out. But now I was like, it's more like a swordsman with a sharp blade just slicing heads off and going, I'm not taking this shit. But not being bad. Like I was being I was holding up a clear mirror.
Yeah.
Like it's just funny, like I was being flagged for how I voted in a recent election. And I had to say to this person, you didn't vote for the last 3 years. And now you're telling me about how to vote. I said, the importance is that we do vote and not who we vote for. But just looking at the other person going, oh my God, you're asleep. You're totally just playing a tape of whatever the local conditioning and the latest fad is. And anytime you kind of shine a light at it, they just change the subject, talk about something completely different. And you're just kind of going, I just felt like I was in the pub on my own. So
well, that was, that's time for the next step. The next step is for you to appreciate that what you're seeing in them is what you're seeing in yourself. Because they're a mirror for you. They're your projection. So when you see them flagging you for your voting habits. It's a tricky one, isn't it? How do you turn that around and ask yourself what's going on? Right. So it's
That's
not.
what I'm trying to do. Yeah. When you're talking, I'm like, I'm not getting this one. Like, okay, I want to see this clearly.
Yeah. So the trick is, of course, that the seduction is that it's about voting, but it's not about voting.
No.
It's about something that rests on. So that what that rests on could be that part of you feels the same way as that person said, or maybe not. Maybe it could be that you don't like being criticised. Right? So what you do is you blame them. So you immediately focus back out on them, and that's your escape route.
Mm.
Sometimes it can be hard to see what it is that they're quite unconsciously offering you to see about yourself, but it is always there.
Yeah, and like I always feel like there's a grain of truth, at least a grain of truth in whatever someone says. It's never totally wrong. You know,
Yeah.
you might have, that's wrong. There has to be some truth in it because of the reaction and the subtlety of maybe finding that grain of truth. Like, yeah.
So there's a couple. I mean, this is really complex stuff. So in a way, one of the things you did that we would say is a good thing was that you established a boundary. Right, I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore. Right, so
That was important. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Vince, I wouldn't have said that, but having boundaries is important. I think, yeah, you're right. That was an establishment of a boundary. Yeah.
Yep. But it's a very thin line whether our boundary is simply a form of protection, or whether it's, say, is it a boundary to keep you in or a boundary to keep them out? What is it? What is the boundary? Right? It's some kind of hypothetical point beyond which you won't go or which you won't allow them to go, depending whether it's
Sometimes
yeah.
it feels like, this is a crude way of saying, but it feels like a power play of some type. It's an assertion of, I don't know if it's dominance or just
power, sure.
yeah, control, trying to control. Like I felt like the other person was trying to control, collude, just manipulate, control.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, I don't want to be controlled. I refuse to be controlled, or some version of that. Right?
Yeah,
So
something like that.
it's
Yeah.
not about them, it's about you. So if you feel like they're
Right.
trying to manipulate and control you, that's where the juice is for you. I'm being manipulated. So the moment you get a good trigger for your recognition that something's going on is the moment you get defensive about something. So when they go, the way you voted, if you feel like you need to defend it, then you're selfing, and that's where the juice is for you. So defending what the self is, a defense. You know, the concept of self, the idea of a self is purely a defense mechanism. It's armor.
You're right. Yeah, I started to self because in truth, in that moment, the recognition was there that I have no idea why I voted the way I voted. I don't know why the pen struck the page that way and why those votes happened. That's the truth. But I started to doubt and self, and then there was a sense, you feel like a child embarrassed again. They're 4 and you've been embarrassed or something, and you're like, what? And then you use your mind and your knowledge to defend and to say why. But at the same time, you know the other person is just poking at you anyway. It's a poke, it's a play, it's a
Yeah, it is. It's an attempt to connect with you, maybe, you know, who knows? Yeah. So remembering that an opinion is a judgment, and it's a lot easier to see us having opinions about things than it is to see us judging things.
Yeah, it felt more like that these were opinions and that these were views, and well, then you see the other person sort of dig in a little and try to jab and control, and you know, just comments and things that kind of are trying to, yeah, like you're saying, it's like they're trying to root out your vulnerability, and they're very good at that. But the main theme of that story I brought up was around setting a boundary and feeling good about having a boundary, because maybe in the past the boundaries weren't there, and without boundaries you're ducking and diving, and you're trying to, it's very tiresome to try and navigate that without saying that's my boundary, don't go there. And people get used to your boundaries and then respect that, and that's part of life. Yeah, it's interesting, because then the story behind it was, well, maybe that person's not good for you, and maybe that relationship isn't a long-term relationship. Maybe that's something you should look at. But now, like, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's the kind of people you need to be around to push your buttons so you can see where your buttons are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's the value of it. And you know, if it's not a good fit, that'll drop away. The things that we need to be a little careful about, and well, we don't really careful about it, that's a shitty way to say it, but there's this thing called confirmation bias, where we hang around with people who confirm our views on things. We read the newspapers that confirm our views, or watch the TV channels that confirm our views. We're all the time looking for, we have confirmation bias all the time. Yeah. So it's worth keeping an eye out for that one. If it might occur, it might not either, you know. But yeah, it happens at an unconscious level, you know, very subtly. But yeah. But yeah, relationships are funny things, and they sort themselves out.
But it was funny, like, because you could call it we were sort of, it was a dance of, not necessarily a fight, but a dance of whatever. But I was very centered. The relationship was still there. There was, there was no, but the other was getting kind of hissy and moany and happily, I'm leaving, and all this kind of carry on. It was all childish, and I'm just kind of going, we're just dancing here, like, don't throw your toys out of the pram, kind of thing.
Yep.
But that I was holding firm on my silly little things, like I had won a bottle of wine for a thing earlier, and saying, oh, give us that. I want to give it to my wife. She'd love a bottle of wine, and I said, no, I'm keeping it. I'm bringing it home to my wife and for me to enjoy. And I thought about it, and I said, well, if he really wants it, I might give it to him. It's not a big deal. But if he really wanted his wife to have a bottle of wine, he could go and buy her a bottle of wine too. Like, he's not homeless. But there was this just manipulation to try and get the wine off me, and I was like, you're not getting the wine. And in the past, I might have given the wine, but he wasn't getting the wine this time. I won the wine, and I was keeping the wine. and then he kept going on about it, and then I don't know if it turned me back, or I might have just turned me back for a second. And he grabbed the wine and went over to a complete stranger and gave her the wine, and had been moaning about me and the wine and stuff, making it out that I was some grounger or something. Now that could have done me in before, but that didn't bother me. Straight away I went back over to her and I said, sorry about that, that's my wine, you have to give it to you. And I took the wine back, and she was laughing. So it was a real weird scenario of me keeping my boundary intact. And how it played out.
But it was a bit of a discovery about yourself, eh?
It was very much, it's okay to interact with people, engage, stand your ground, keep your bottle of wine. No matter if he gives it away, you have to go over and get it back off someone. very nice and courteous. Like I was just saying, sorry, that's my wine, and he shouldn't. She didn't care anyway. But his lengths to go to try and upset me or trying to knock me off my center about the wine. And then it was his round to buy a drink. And he had told me earlier, a friend of his, an old lad from the pub, that he did work on his car. He didn't charge him. He said, just get a few drinks sometimes. And this guy, when it was Derek's round, this guy came over and bought the drink. And then he was trying to say, you can give me the wine. Sure, look at that round we got there was from Headaball because I fixed his car. And I'm saying, I don't care if you buy it or he buys it. It's your round. What's that got to do with anything? Oh, this sort of subtle trying to manipulate to get the wine, and I wouldn't give it. So yeah, it was a strange one, all right. It was like the universe was testing me. How far can we push you now before you keel over?
Yeah. And you kept your center all the way through. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's very much like I wouldn't have used the word in telling that story, but you set it boundaries.
Mm. Yeah, they're interesting things. Really interesting. Yeah.
And that what if nothing is wrong keeps coming up, because it's like everything we talk about here, everything we discuss, everything we think of, it's all based on the principle that something is wrong.
Yes.
And then now we go.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It feels like those statements and the stopping they provide just is slowly dissolving something. But how quickly it dissolves or how slow it dissolves, whether it's a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 30 years, who knows?
Exactly. Yeah.
Then my kind of practice lately is still the same. And everyone seems to be talking about it in one way or another, is feeling the body, emotions.
Yep.
Tingling, vibrations. I've noticed a lot of vibration and tingling in the jaw area lately. And I'd clench, so I've had that issue for years. And when it happens, I'm like, oh, this is great. This is obviously just energy fizzing around and maybe releasing or, doing its thing. So it's nice.
Yeah. I like body language. It often reveals stuff, So when you said about clenched jaw, I'm picturing a bulldog got a hold of something and he's not going to let it go no matter how hard you pull.
Yeah, and straight away the sense was I'm not going to let go of myself. No matter how hard you pull.
It might be a bit late for that one.
Yeah. But it does feel like that. The holding, the tension, the clench. It's the selfing. It's that mechanism. It's exhausting.
Mm.
And what just came in there was, you don't let go of it. It lets go of itself. So that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. When I come home, my dog, or when anybody comes to the door, my dog wants to pick up a shoe or something and have it in its mouth for that person, but it won't give it to it. It won't give him what it's got in its mouth, but it's got to have it there, and it keeps on going close to it, but it won't let go of it. And I've learned that if I want to get that out of the dog's mouth, I've got to hold it, but not pull. I've got to hold it and if the dog moves its head, I move my hand with it. And after a while, you can see it just struggles to open its mouth and let go of it. but eventually it will do it, you know. But it's so hard. It's absolutely really difficult for it to just drop it. It can't just do it. Yeah. It's a strange reaction, but yeah.
My dog does the exact same thing, Vince. Now that you've said that, puts the shoe or the thing in the mouth. Now
Yep.
she will. I always give her a rub on the head, hold it, and she lets go. And you're wondering, why is she picking up the shoe to go to the door? Like, is it a gift or is it to block her from eating someone? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it feels like and it's just this week, maybe, and maybe a bit of last week. It feels like I'm not burning with something to say, and yet I don't want to not show up. So I'll come on, and then, I really want to listen to other people and to hear what you're saying. And because everyone's is always the same, it's some part of something I'm dealing with too, in some way. It's never non-relatable. So it's just checking in, and then I remembered you. I think I'm saying I'll leave my camera off now. I'll just listen. And then I go, no, Vince is going to call you on that anyway. So you might as well get ready.
I
I think
really like what I'm hearing and seeing. It sounds to me like you're in a really good place. Yeah. And I like a couple of things. I like the way you're talking, you know, the flavor of your tone of voice is good. You know, you're relaxed but you're really, yeah, quite solid in what you're saying. It's good. Yeah.
I appreciate the feedback, Vince. Yeah.
I started seeing I kept seeing this name, Anak. I'm thinking, oh yeah, who's Anak? Then I realized it was Anne UK. How, how have you been, Anak?
A bit like, and then a bit like that.
Okay, yeah.
Contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to change that, Anna. I'm thinking everybody's going to think I'm called Anna, but I quite like that because it's a bit, got a bit more flavour than just
Sure. Who cares what people think? Yeah.
Name. So, yeah, I mean, well, as you know, the beginning of the retreat that I'm on was, oh my God, well, I nearly left on Wednesday because it was too, whatever was going on.
I'm glad to see you hung in there.
Yeah, glad I did. Really broke through that. And so I suppose what stands out from this week are a couple of experience. Well, that obviously, which I've spoken to you about, but a couple of experiences. One this morning where I was doing one of the exercises from the retreat and not really expecting a lot from it. And I thought, and anyway, I just saw through, I think it probably just, well, it is just a glimpse, but I saw through the whole thing again. And that's the only way I can describe it. Like that there's no central core here. There's nothing piecing everything together. It's like the hearing's here and the seeing's there, and it's nowhere really, but it's like it blew me up into pieces. Not in a bad way. It was nice, you know, it was a nice, it wasn't even an experience, it was just a sort of insight, I suppose, maybe. But I saw a bit, I've seen through things before in a big way, but this one took me a bit further. It took me to the whole kind of where if there was somewhere to get, that's where I'd want to be. you know, the end of it sort of thing, the end of me. Just seeing through the illusion and the whole. I'm not that stage that some people get to where they're laughing and saying, "Oh my God, what a cosmic joke!" And it's all. I'm not there, but seeing that could happen, that it's all made up. It's just all made up. And so that was really lovely. Not like wow, but just like wow, yeah, that's possible. I'd forgotten that's possible. And that's what actually is the case now. But obviously, I've still got a lot of filters. That's yeah. So that's that, and then on the other end of the scale is there's the trauma coming up, which is muddy, and it's quite confusing having the sort of heaven and hell. You don't know which one you're going to be in, heaven and hell, you know. And I had an experience. I had to take some clothes back because of this addiction, you know, buying and selling. I nearly said that used to be my career, so it's a habit, as conditioning as well. But buying stuff and taking it back. I took some stuff back on the morning. It was the last day I could take it back, otherwise I'd lose the money. So I took it. But it was the morning of the retreat, and I wanted to stay in the retreat. I didn't want to go and do that. And anyway, I had a load of what do you call it? You know, I had one of the things come up, you know, the fuzzy head trauma thing, that I know something's going on, but I don't know what it is. And it takes me a while to even recognize something's going on. But this time I caught it in the car. I just managed to put the spoke in and say, what's going on, sort of thing. And it felt like I was facing it. And then a really strong sensation came. And then I just stayed with the sensation and it dissolved. But in that, I think it was that one was the story that came with that sensation, was seeing what I was like as a child at school, and all the stuff that had come up on the retreat was been like the child at school, not understanding, being a bit slow, a bit behind, and everybody's different from me, but really intensely. So it showed me that, but because a lot of my memories are repressed, I don't remember my life, basically, little picture snaps. So it felt such a relief to see that, even though it's a story, it felt a relief because I had compassion for myself growing up. That I was so confused and so, you know, unbearable for me, it felt like. And it was nice to have that compassion for myself and see that part of myself. You see, it's hard, isn't it, to say that part of myself, but there's no self.
Yeah, but we have to use language. There was no getting around that. And I know what you mean. I know you're not talking about some inherently separate self existing in there. It's okay.
But it's also not just in terms of talking, but it's also hard because when I see these memories, it feels like it's a real solid past that as a child I went through.
Okay, yeah.
But then the experience this morning is there's absolutely no reality in anything. There's nothing solid. There's no people. Yep. It's such a stark contrast to be working through both at the same time.
Yeah. But you can see that they both can exist together. One doesn't drive the other out. They're both there. And they vary in foreground and background, up and down, in and out all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, just to push this point home, that what the story is about is not what it's about. That what the story is about is always a diversion away from what it's actually about.
Mm.
So what it's actually about is what triggered that thing to happen. So it's not about what happened to you at school. It's about how you responded to that.
At school, I responded to it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
it first happened, how you responded was what became part of your muscle memory, part of your body. Your body remembers it, even though you don't remember it.
Yeah.
And it's that response reaction, that reaction to what the happening was, that did it.
So you're saying, like, at the time something happened, and I went into my head rather than feeling it. I didn't feel capable of feeling it, so I went into my head.
Well,
and now I'm.
Yeah, it might have been that you went into your head. There might be a whole lot of different things that you did. But what you did was an attempt to escape the horrible feeling that came from it. Yeah.
And now I'm able to have that feeling.
Yes, because you're an adult now and you can see it from a different perspective than you could when it was first happening. When you're a fairly innocent child at school and they're dumping shit on you, well, you got what can you do? You can run away, you can hide. That's about it. You know, and sometimes you can't do any of that. You're frozen. You just got to take it. So there's not much choice. But now, as an adult, you can see that what was happening to you was different to what the experience was when it happened. What was happening to you was other kids doing what other kids do, and you doing what a frightened little kid does.
And so there seems to be, if I break that experience down in the car, there seems to be three parts to it. There's the fuzzy mess of confusion, and that's the psychological suffering when you don't know what it is and you don't know what's going on is the most painful part. Then when it dropped down into the sensation's almost a relief that you've got something, it's really tangible and strong.
Yeah.
And then the memory of the childhood is on top of that is even more of a relief.
Yes.
But what scares me and has scared me in the past is I've spent so long in that fuzzy confusion.
That's right. Yeah. And that was your escape from that. Yeah. So that memory of what it is, that's optional kind of thing. That's doesn't have to happen. That's a gift that you get. The
sensation was the most important.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
That's what I'm learning, But there's a story that runs in my mind that this thing might have happened to me when I was 3, and it was really weird on the retreat because I was talking about something completely different, and Pidel said, something happened to you when you were 3 and you don't know what it was. I'm like, my God, she's psychic, how did she know that? Anyway, there's this thing that happened to me when I was 3, but I only have picture memories, and I don't know, I've told before, I don't know if it's real, I don't know if it's a dream, but it was abuse, basically. And so the story in my mind is, so if that one little feeling from school was that bad, what's it going to be like when I get to having to re-experience that or re-feel that?
Well, you won't have to re-feel it. Well, that might happen. There might be a flavor of it, or it might be, you know, a little bit more, who knows? But essentially, you felt what you felt because you were a helpless child without any ability to put it into a proper perspective, right? You were just totally in survival mode, right? Here you were with getting, you know, like the very worst thing, being stoned by the village almost. So, so as a kid, you know, that's a life and death situation. But now you can see what it was just a bunch of kids throwing insults at you, saying things to get a reaction from you. And when you look, if you were able to witness the scene again, they would be getting exactly what they were after from you. They would be getting a reaction. You would be responding in a way.
Well, in memory, Vince, nobody's doing anything bad to me. It's just my internal feeling as a child.
Yes.
It's not a memory of someone doing something bad. It's how I felt about myself, that I was slow, that I wasn't like other people.
So comparison. So they were doing something for you. See, they were behaving smarter than you, or they were whatever.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it's not like they were bullying you, but they did.
Well, the feeling behind it was that there's something wrong with me.
Yes,
and
yes,
that
that's
is
right.
I think that there's something deeply wrong with me,
Yes.
and I'm not like other people.
And you arrived at that conclusion because you compared your interpretation of yourself with your interpretation of them. Right. And both of those, by the way, were not very accurate. Your interpretation of yourself and your interpretation of them was off the mark. But that's
right. Yeah.
that's how you arrived at the conclusion that you weren't very smart or whatever.
Yeah.
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 And so when you how do you feel? How do you feel about the fact that you're not as smart as everybody else?
Well, that's what was coming up on the retreat.
Yeah.
It was you mentioned there about being stoned by the village. That's how it felt.
Yeah. I don't know where those things come from. They just come out of my mouth.
And I mean, when it broke through, it was like, why have such a strong response as if I'm being stoned by the village? So am I really, the reaction is too big for what's happening because I'm reliving a trauma of abuse as a child?
Yeah.
The reaction I'm having at the beginning of the retreat would be how it feels is equivalent to
as if you were there and it was happening again.
Yeah. The memory was at school with one of them, but with the retreat, and I was talking to Pernilla about being inadequate and being behind and this and that, but that wasn't really touching it. It was something else, It's like it was bringing up a memory or something that I just couldn't bear.
So these things don't happen with one incident. That happened over a period of time with a constant reinforcement. And maybe that constant reinforcement was coming from your own mind.
What happened over a period of time with the constant reinforcement? I'm talking about the thing when I was 3.
All right.
So what I'm saying is, in Pernilla's meeting, the feeling and the memory are quite sad, but quite small, of me being a child and having those feelings of inadequacy and things like that. But I'm wondering if behind that, there's also the feeling of what came up, of what went on when I was 3 behind that.
Yeah.
Because when you said about being stoned, which when I get those pictures of the abuse, which was sexual, not being stoned or anything, but that would be an equivalent to the experience I felt at the beginning of the retreat.
Yep.
that I was being stoned or something that dramatic. So something
Yeah,
that
so
dramatic
punished.
can't be from memory of that. It would be more equivalent to what was happening to me when I was 3.
Yep. Well, they're not separate. They're not different. You know, they're the same thing. When what you bring out of an experience like that when you're 3 is that there's something wrong with you. That'll be the normal reaction for a young child to come out of it. You know, why that happened to me because of me.
Mm,
So as horrible as it is, as horrible as the person who did it to you is, right? A
mm,
child is going to blame herself for what went on.
yes.
That'd be normal. I mean,
Yeah.
it might not happen in every case, but I would say it mostly it would.
No, I think I can touch that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
come, you know, fast forward 3 years later at school when you got a bunch of kids picking on you, right?
Mm,
It's exactly the same feeling that there's something wrong with you. Why are they picking
yeah.
on me? Because there's something
Yeah.
wrong with me. You know what I mean?
In it
Not-
round on.
They're not separate like that, but they add up together and they end up being way, way bigger than they need to be.
Yeah.
Because you've got this constant reinforcement and all your life. I'll guarantee this confirmation bias I was talking about earlier. I'll guarantee you spend all your life looking at focusing on things that confirm your ideas about that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, maybe
I
not.
know that all
Or
my
not.
life, when seemingly little things happen that most people deal with in a normal reactionary way, inside I can feel like I'm being stoned.
Mm,
You know, I've been raped or something like that on something seemingly small, like being behind with the retreat and, you know, not catching up and little things like that. But in my experience, when something bad happens and I touch that place, it's like it's unbearable, and it's not, and never has been what would call a normal reaction. I don't show it to people a lot how I really feel, but inside it's like that.
yeah, yep, yeah. Mm.
But that's interesting to see that big experience that I'm thinking is going to come up that I can't handle from that time is actually coming up.
Yeah.
Every time I hurt, it's coming up.
Mm. But you will handle it, right? You won't handle it like you did then. You will handle it now. That's that reparenting thing, you know, that we alluded to before. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all of it comes back, I think, to me, what jumps out of this conversation tonight is this overall deeply ingrained fundamental belief that there's something wrong with you.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's been seen really clearly, really deeply. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not there most of the time. Like now, it's not there. But when it's triggered, it's like I just want to die. You know.
Yeah, sure.
It's like,
oh, it's a survival thing. You know, it's like it's the way that young child felt. Absolutely helpless.
yeah. It's like there's something wrong with me, and I'll never get to the bottom of it.
Well, let me tell you, you never will get to the bottom of it, but that doesn't matter. It will dissolve without you getting to the bottom of it. You don't have to get to the bottom of it. The fact is, you know it exists. That's all you need to know, that it exists. You can say,
belief.
oh, well, that it became from before. You know, that's probably true as well. It certainly didn't come from the future. So what I'm saying is that,
Sorry, Vince, when you said that I know it exists, that I know that belief exists, that there's something deeply wrong with me. Or do you mean the memory? Or what do you mean?
I mean that feeling that there's something wrong with you, not the idea about it, the feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
feeling comes from the idea because we're still hooked into the idea, but that's not where we want to put our focus. We want to put our focus on the feeling itself. You see, it's the old monster under the bed scenario. Whenever we're frightened of it, and we're so frightened that we don't look, it's a huge monster. Right? If we were to jump out of bed and shine the torch under the bed, all we're going to find is a bit of dust. But until we look, it's huge.
Yeah, and that's what I saw in the car, but I don't sometimes know how to get from the thoughts into the feeling. It's like I get trapped in those thoughts.
Yep. Well, if you don't realize it at the time, of course, because you are trapped in them, and when you're trapped in them, that's all you can think about. But always the time will come when you're out of it. The time will come when you recognize that you were lost in thought. And that, of course, was lost in feeling as well.
Yeah.
So kind of part of what that is about is that trust. So when you can recognize that no matter how bad it seems, no matter how long it seems to go on for, that it will end, that it does end. So when you consult your experience and it does always end at some point, then then you have trust. So when you're in the middle of it, that kind of pokes through a little bit, and you can go, well, I just have to wait and it'll be gone. Right?
But I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think you can do that with physical pain, but I don't think you can do that when you're trapped in the head.
Depends on a couple of things. Yeah, for sure. I agree. See, the thing is, if you get a surge of say, well, any hormone, say adrenaline or something, you get a fright and you get a surge of adrenaline, it's gone in about 90 seconds. That's how long it takes for any surge of hormone to go. But what happens when we get ourselves into a stress situation is we keep repeating the story that we respond to. And that keeps it chronically for a long time. And then that brings
like the car, that I can't even see the story. That's the problem. But that sort of fuzzy-headedness could last for days, a week. Wow. But it just dropped really quickly.
Right.
Just dropped. Yeah. But once I'm sensation, it's easy.
Yep.
I quite like the sensation almost. I mean, it's
it's your friend. It is your friend. Yeah. It's
my
trying to look after you.
Yeah. But when I'm trapped in or it's seemingly trapped, it's not like I can see the thoughts and say, oh, there's that thought again, that there's something deeply wrong with me.
No, you're too busy acting it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm too busy in it. I'm too busy
in it. Yeah, acting it out and expressing.
I don't feel like I did anything. There's not something there that I can say, oh, that's what I'll do next time, where I drop from the thought into the feeling. Maybe there is something I do. Maybe that just stepping back and going, so what's going on with me?
Yep, that's a good one. Yeah. See, that question, that curiosity, that's the thing. Yeah. And of course, the moment you can say what's going on, you're outside of it. You're not controlled by it anymore. You're outside of it, looking at it from the outside, and that gives you an opportunity to see it much more clearly than what you're inside it still.
Yeah, that feels quite new. That just popping outside of it, and I think there's just a sense of like, oh God, I hope I can keep doing that, because I've spent so long in the torture, as we all have, I'm sure at some points. That that popping out of it when you're in it feels a relief.
Mm.
But I mean, I'm not in control of that either, am I? It'll either happen or not.
That's right, yeah.
So it's funny having all those like really like relative heavy stuff going on, and then the bits where it's like, oh my God, it's not even real, nothing's real, you know, not.
Yep.
You just see the movie playing,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the movie of Anne's life and everyone in it, and it's like, oh, it's a freaking movie.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is like that, yeah. Yeah. And interesting how it kind of almost flickers in and out. You know, it's almost like you're watching two movies at once and you see
Yes.
the beach or a bit of the other. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, yeah. It's like you're watching a normal movie and then you're putting 3D goggles on and you're in the movie.
Yeah. It's different. Mhm.
It's like, oh, this movie's interesting, yeah, and that didn't go there, and that's not solid, and then you put the goggles on, like, ah, I'm in it again. Yeah. Yeah, it feels good to talk about it though. Thanks for asking, Vince.
Yeah.
Vince, could I jump in again?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It was just something Anne said, and it got me kind of thinking about what I'd said to you earlier. And I just kind of inquired, and I wanted to kind of run it by you because it felt like it was unfinished. And in a way, I described one of the things Anne was talking about was a core wound, something wrong with me, or a core belief.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about the incident I was talking to you about, and it was like I didn't want to be controlled and manipulated and pushed around. And then I was kind of doing the inquiry saying, well, do I control, manipulate, and push other people around? And that didn't feel true. It felt more like I control, manipulate, and push myself around. Felt truer.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was under that was I'm looking for connection. I'm looking to connect with people. And then what I felt into that under that was safety.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for safety. And then it was basically the core wound or core belief is that it's not safe or life's not safe. And so kind of sitting with that a little bit, and I could get under Anne's one, what's wrong with me? I could get under that easier with it. With what's the feeling, what's the emotion, or what's under that, and the sense of shame was there.
Mm.
But under mine, I was struggling a bit, and I was like, okay. But then it came to me, obviously, yeah, it's fear. And recalling the scenario and maybe what you'd like to have done is to be like a child and just crawl up into a ball, close your eyes, and wish the world away. But it was like I was navigating that scenario the first time as a child, but maybe as a healthy child with boundaries, my new toy boundaries kind of thing. And that was coming up, and so kind of sitting with the shame, the fear, and I guess the work is to feel those things. And then I was kind of thinking, the way the world is, I think they used to think the atom was the smallest thing, and now I don't know if it's a quirk or something. I was imagining them splitting the quirk and finding it's made up of love, fear, and shame, and it's what's needed to make the world go round. And then I went straight back to the, well, what if nothing's wrong with all that? And someone said to me a while back as well, another statement: all feelings are feelings of well-being, which kind of puts a shortcut through it. So the one that's strongest for me right now is the fear. I've touched into shame before. I've done it in some counseling as well. And it's very freeing when you look at it and you're willing to be with it and in it. There's something nice in the middle of it. That's all I can say. And shame isn't shame when you're swimming in it. It's the resistance to it.
Mm.
And I think that's still deepening. The fear one is a different one. It's fear, and it reminds me of panic attacks years ago, and
Yep.
fear and that fight or flight. And I got the image of the Bourne Supremacy movie coming up where Jason Bourne is trained to be an assassin, and he goes into a room and he spots all the people. He sits in the corner. He knows the two exits. He's scanning everything, that fight or flight. And I really resonate with all that sort of, maybe being stuck in fight or flight all your life, and fear being always there.
Yeah.
And it feels like now you're just exhausted with it all. So that was my inquiry, kind of. It's funny how these core little things branch out into such complicated lives
Oh yeah.
in the head.
Yeah, the complexity is huge. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, shame is often a mask. It's kind of like it's a horrible feeling, but it's way more tolerable than what it's protecting you from, which is the fear. The fear can easily get close to being intolerable. But no matter how bad the shame is, it is tolerable. Not pleasant by any means, but certainly tolerable. Yeah. But shame, of course, is a tool that people use to manipulate us. Our parents used it to manipulate us, all the time. So we all know, we all carry shame, I think.
Yeah, and that core something's wrong with me comes from definitely from young childhood.
Mm.
Can I ask something about that? Because that really helped me, what Dennis just said, and reminded me that I did sort of somewhere in all this thing called that's shame, and there'd always been a question for me of like, when people talk about shame, I don't know what that feels like. And so a couple of questions is, like Dennis said, oh, there's something deeply wrong with me, and that leads me to shame, and so I just feel the shame. But how do you feel shame?
Well, you don't.
How do you?
Because it's a concept. So even fear's
Right.
a concept, right? These are, we say it's a concept, but it's a concept because it's a label that encompasses a whole lot of stuff. And so if we dismiss the label and say, well, what is that pointing to? If I say I'm feeling shame, there's sensations and there's stories. Okay, so what's the sensation? Where do I feel that shame? Where would you say? What part of the body do you experience shame in? The neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to that question because when I actually said it, just for you, and the actual experience was an emotional release, heat in the chest, crying, a sense of relief. And what was right underneath shame, again, it's another label, but it was like a surrendered love. It has to put words on it. So in the middle of shame wasn't shame. Shame was like a coating around love and all these other lovely things when you feel it. So it was a physical release. It was an energetic letting go. It was tears. It was crying. It was the heart beating. That's what it was physically.
Yeah, you see, I don't have that, and that's why I think there's something wrong with me, because when people talk about that process that Dennis just said, and he felt it, and they were physical, and it felt like heat, and then he started crying, and underneath that was love. That didn't happen to me.
Sometimes, Anne, sometimes I can, and I know what you're saying because it's hard to force it. One trick I've learned to use, and even I resist using the trick, is to use music. Find music that just evokes your heart and that brings you back to an earlier time. So sometimes music can slide you into that where you can release. That's just one tip.
Yeah, if you want to
Right.
get the heart going, get violin music. It'll pull the heart.
Or Michael
Yeah.
or Michael Bolton.
And I'm just going to say, can you send me a playlist, Dennis? Because then my head will be going, which song will make me cry, you know? But
I've loads of
and
them.
I think that part of me thinking, oh, I don't want to push myself into victim. I feel a bit guilty about using it, right? But maybe I should try it. Maybe
You
that's
deserve
just
it, Anne,
my
fully.
Yeah. And just remember, nothing that comes up is wrong. Whatever comes up is telling you something. It's an opportunity. Whatever turns up is trying to look after you. It's your friend. It's trying to look after. It might be misguided completely, but it's still trying to look after you. So nothing can be wrong with whatever turns up.
Do you think it's a good idea to listen to music to make yourself cry?
Sure.
I'm a bit jealous of people that just cry.
Yeah, music, you know, people with Alzheimer's and that, you know, you play music and it'll take them straight back 50 years ago in one instant. It's incredibly strong stuff. And I mean, and say Walt Disney, he was a master at using music to manipulate emotions in all of his little movies and things, you know, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And if you don't kind of hear the music because you're so involved in the storyline that's going on and your feelings, but it's there, always there. You know, I've got such great respect for the people who write music scores for movies and that. They do a brilliant job and nobody ever pays them any attention, but there they are, evoking emotion all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you played the movie of Dennis or the movie of Anne or Kelly, whoever, and you put that beautiful emotive music behind it, you'd soon have compassion for yourself, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you're telling these stories like, oh, I was abused or this happened and that happened, like, but if you put music, you know, that story that Sylvia told about her daughter's horrific. You put music behind that, we'd all be traumatized.
Absolutely, we'd all be bawling our eyes out, man.
Hearing it. Yeah.
Anyway, it's an easy one to try, Anne.
Pardon?
It's an easy one to try. Go back to when you were a teenager, all the music you loved. I don't know if you were a lady of the 80s or what, but there's loads of good love songs that might get you going.
Trouble is, my memory's so bad, I can't remember them. The song will come on and I'll think, oh my God, that takes me back. But to actually sit and think, put a song on from when I was 18 is like, I'll just play with it. It's good. Thanks for that though, Dennis. I think I could explore more with that. Because when I do listen to music, yeah, it does emote me more. I get in touch with my emotions.
I don't know if you ever had the experience of when you were younger or whatever, dating and maybe had your heart broken and used to listen to love songs and you're trying to find you're trying to get back to breaking your heart again, but this time it'll be different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's interesting what you said, Vince, about fear being beneath shame. What's that about then?
I don't know. What's it about for you? If you play with it, just imagine that the shame is there to divert you away from what's underneath it. And so as horrible as shame is, it's tolerable. Well, depending, of course, it could be not tolerable, but yeah.
Well, the word that comes up is failure.
Failure, yeah, yeah.
Because, you know, if you look at there's something wrong with me, well, the minute you said, is it okay that there's something wrong with me? It's fine. But if you believe in there's something wrong with you, then that's ultimate failure, isn't it?
Okay.
Well, they'd be ashamed that there's something
It is
wrong.
a kind of a failure, yeah, but it's, yes, sorry about laughing like that. Yeah, no, see, what's failure? What's success?
Let's look at it another way. So there's something deeply wrong with me coming up on the retreat really badly. Didn't accept, is it okay? You know, didn't even think about that. I was really in believing there is something so deeply wrong with me. And then the shame. So then by what you've said, then I could have been asking, so what am I frightened of?
Yeah. Yeah. And it won't be anything outside of you. It'll be something inside.
And what comes up then is I'm scared of being exposed.
Yes. Exposed for as a fraud.
Yeah.
Because you're not being your authentic self. What comes up for me, Anne, and we're kind of bouncing back and forth here, because I didn't fully get the shame and the fear thing too. And when I drop into it, like the question, what's wrong with me? It's a question. What's wrong with me? So you can look instead of a conclusion. Something wrong with me, I'm done. And underneath the fear for me is two things I'll say: rage and anger.
Yes.
And it's like they need to come out and be felt. And only when they're felt and released and balanced out, ultimately what's under them is love. But the rage and the fear hasn't a voice, and we're doing everything we can to avoid it. And that's what's creating the fear. It's like, well, if I really let go, I'll fucking go crazy and I'll rage at people for, you know, my wounds. So it's to try and, for me, I can feel that could be there. Now I don't want to put that in your mind. You have to feel if that's underneath there as well.
Yeah, no, there was anger. But I struggle with it because it seems unjustified for the event. The anger and the rage.
It's a 3-year-old anger. It's a 3-year-old anger. It's not an adult's anger.
And it's life and death. It's not a trivial thing. No matter what triggered it, it might have just been hunger that triggered it, or it could be who knows what triggered it. You know, it could be a minor trivial thing, but the response is a life and death thing. It's huge. It's everything for that infant.
Well, what was going on was it is like it's too fast. It's too fast. I need it to stop. I'm getting lost. I'm getting behind. I can't do this and things like that. And the anger was, yeah, I don't know. Then I get lost.
Is it maybe it's because it's not fair? Why you?
Yeah, that came up. Yeah, that came up. So what do I do with all that? Because you're saying things and Dennis is saying things and reminding me that this came up, but
my sense of it would be that because we think about the word anger, and so straight away I was talking last time about a boxing bag and just letting the anger out, but that's anger plus, I think. And I haven't done this enough, but I know that the task is to sit with the sensations of anger or whatever they are, but before we label them anger, and to just be with them and not you know, and if you're in a room on your own, you might want to scream and shout and go into your pillow, but like that's fine. I imagine that would be quite energizing, but it's just to allow your anger to be.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, I'll tell you what it is my anger doesn't feel justified for the situation, so my rational mind thinks I'm crazy because I'm just on a retreat, you know, who cares if I'm behind or inadequate? But the rage is not equivalent to the situation. So there's no one to get angry at.
No,
There's
no, wrong road. Don't go down that road, and even go back a little bit and unwind that one as well. The idea that it's not proportional to the situation
Yeah,
is just an idea. You don't know that, right? And in fact, we don't have a measurement to say what's justified and what's not justified. The fact is you had an experience. Regardless of how justified that experience was, you had an experience. And
but I think there's a bit of a battle goes on, like mother and daughter, of the adult in me kind of trying to keep it down because it doesn't know what the anger's about.
Yeah, so it makes up stories and it runs away and does all sorts of things. Yeah. See, the anger's going to be sitting on top of something too. The anger's not at the bottom. The anger's only one step underneath shame. There's still other stuff underneath that.
Well, I think I'm going to have to do this in my session with you, Vince. So with you.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just getting up.
we're only approaching it. We don't need to turn that rock over just yet. It'll happen when it's ready. So, all we're doing is poking the bear. Let's see if we can get him to stir, and we are. It is stirring, isn't it? You know, the retreat does that for you. Yeah, beautifully. Yeah.
And it's a big bear. No, it's not really. I think it just seems like it is.
It seems like it is. Yeah, that's right. And there's that story in our head of that if we wake it up and it's going to jump up and rush after us and kill us. Yeah. So we.
It feels like that thing of like, you know, when you want to be sick and the being sick is not bad. It's the actual feeling before it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all that, and depending on how long that goes on, that's the torture. The getting out is the relief, isn't it?
Yeah. But see, and it's a difficult one to again get the thing. I feel like I fail a lot to get across the message. I guess because it has to be experienced, but that is that everything's okay. Nothing can be wrong. And so consequently, the idea of fixing something or finishing something or ending something is just another diversion. Right. So no matter how bad you feel, I know that when you feel bad, the first thing that happens is we want to stop it. We want to end it. We want to fix it. Right. And in some cases we'll just take a Panadol. In other cases whatever. But any move in the direction of ending it, getting rid of it and fixing it is in the wrong direction. It's away from it. And so consequently it doesn't achieve what our intentions are. So what we've got to do is counterintuitive. We've got to turn around and face it. Right. And that facing it doesn't mean that we're going to come up with a coherent story about what's going on, an explanation. That may never happen, you know. And something that I've said recently is that it makes no difference whether any of this stuff actually happened or whether we're just imagining it. Right? It could be a dream, and we've remembered that dream, and then after a few years, it seems to have been real. It wasn't a dream in our memory. You know, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant because it's the response to that was the trauma. not that itself, but the response to that.
Mm.
And that's in us now, regardless of what caused it, regardless of whether it was real or imagined, regardless of anything. That's what's in us now.
Mm.
And that's why we have these feelings of whatever we have, these feelings of shame, the fear, the anger, the confusion, all of that is because of what's in us and our attempts to escape it.
Yeah, I think it's just that feeling of not knowing what the fuck's going on with me sometimes.
You never will.
Really sick.
You never work it out. You're way too complicated to work out. Your mind can't get a grip on what's going on for you. It's just too much. So
But as you were talking, what I saw was, for some reason, was that what was angering me was there was so much information and it was rushing along, and I had all these feelings coming up. And I think the memory is that's how I felt as a child. You know,
Yes.
everyone's getting on and having fun and learning things and doing all the school stuff and everything like that. But I was stuck in this,
Yep.
in these feelings with
Yep.
nowhere to go with them.
Yep.
And nobody understands it. That's the crux of it.
Yep. And you can imagine as a young child, how do you feel when you feel like the odd one out? You know, everybody else is normal and you're not.
Like an alien.
That's a horrible feeling, eh? Especially when you want to belong. It's your nature to belong because you're a human and we're pack animals, you know, but here you are on the outside. Wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy stuff. Heavy shit. That's trauma.
Yeah. That's a core one for me that comes up again and again and again.
And
Like,
it will keep coming up until we cut the legs out from underneath it, which we do by examining it.
well, I thought I was getting somewhere with having these sensations in the car, but I don't know if it is.
Well, you were. That was a transitional thing too, though. You're learning to do this better and better.
Mm.
The more you do it, the better you get at it. And just when you get really good, you don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah. But just sitting with that, sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time. It's quite a big one for me. But just sitting with that story, it just makes it easier if I've got that picture of that knowing, that understanding of me as a child with all these pent up feelings and nowhere to go with them.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody just running around and living their life and having fun and things like that. And those feelings are still in me, aren't they then?
Yep.
And they've got to come out, haven't they?
Well, no, that's a little tricky though. By come out, you mean what you need to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
And the reparenting thing is where you will put them into an appropriate perspective, the one that the child did not have that perspective. Yeah. And if after you do that they come back, well, there's probably something a little bit deeper there to look at. The chances are they don't come back because they're seen for what they are. A misinterpretation due to the fact that we were young and innocent.
I suppose, like, if that did happen to you when you were 3, you can't explain it to anyone. You don't know what happened, do you?
Absolutely.
And that might seem quite cruel that you've got this on your own.
And you might have
And-
even tried to explain to somebody and they would have told you to keep quiet or something like that. All sorts of possibilities come out of that one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that what happened was what you remember as happening. It may well be that you took it to be something when it was actually something else. But that's irrelevant. It's what you took it as that you reacted to, and that's the important one.
Well, I think as I'm talking, it's the fact that I've got something. I had something. I've still got it probably, that I don't understand it. And
No.
that's what's deeply wrong. That's what I'm interpreting as deeply wrong with me, because I don't know how to put it into words. And it just comes up at inappropriate times. And yeah, I think that's kind of opening up that a bit.
Mm. And it's a good thing you don't know how to put it into words, because putting it into words would be another way of escaping it. So not being able to put it into words means what you're looking at is much more direct. It's unfiltered.
Because when he was coming up on the retreat, I felt like I wanted to be sick or scream, but it was quite distant. And it, yeah. But it just seemed a weird place for it to be coming up. And,
Yep. And you know what? It may not be unusual to have diarrhea and vomiting as a result of it as well. That may also happen. Because it's just something that needs to be got out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I think it's all tied in with the illnesses I have, which include all that. Yeah, sorry for taking up so much time with that, but I was just on a bit of a... Feels quite a relief to see this. Quite a big one.
Good.
Thanks for your help, Dennis. That's really useful what you said.
And I just have a wee idea. You see, like once you get in touch with your repressed anger, that rage, that's very powerful, very strong energy when that's coming out. You might get out of parasympathetic into sympathetic arousal.
Say that again, sorry. I might get...
A nervous system, you know, like it's in the parasympathetic, that repressed, lack of energy, and you know, like all that. So once you get in touch with your repressed anger, it might bring you up into sympathetic, that fight and flight response. And with more energy, you will feel like more active.
That's a good thing, yeah.
It is, yeah, because it's like you are in what you call that, regulated nervous system state, then it goes into sympathetic fight and flight response, and that it goes down into that parasympathetic shutdown. So to get back to regulated, you need to go up into sympathetic fight and flight response and only back to regulated. That's what I learned in that polyvagal nervous system. You know, that's the way it works. It goes like in 3 levels, and you can't escape that sympathetic dysregulation to get back. So you need to, if you go fully down, you have to go through all layers back up again.
That makes sense, Anna. It's like we've unfinished business, and we need to scream our way back to normality.
Yeah. Because you know, like there, like you sit in a state of powerlessness. So to get yourself back into a fight and flight response, you need to get in touch with your anger, and then you will be like, oh, and that's you really like. Even if you try to do that now, you will feel like energy moving in your arms and legs and body. You really feel even saying that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that will get you out from that state of powerlessness, like lack of energy and shutdown mode. And then once you get through that like fight and flight response, you will go up into that regulated calm and peace and all that, but there will be no lack of energy in that calm and relaxed place.
Yeah, I kind of did that on another experience I've had in this retreat, where I was in that flat heavy mode, and then I just spontaneously, without thinking about it, got up and did a really weird, stupid dance. And then I went and got angry in the mirror, and that happened. I went back to normal then. So I think that's what you're talking about there,
Yeah,
Anna, isn't it?
yeah.
I went through those stages, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
That's the way nervous system is working, the polyvagal nervous system theory. That's how I learned. That's where I learned that. It's actually so interesting to read that, because like I did realize a lot of things. Yeah. But that really helped, to see how that nervous system is working and how to get back into that relaxed place. It's like, that's soothing and all this. But yeah.
Yeah. It's good when someone explains them like you explain it there, because I don't reading about them sometimes. I don't always. And so thanks, Anna. That's really useful. And then to link it to the experience I had, that might help me remember to do that again, because it was quite new behavior for me to do that.
Yeah. Because once you get in touch with that, it is very like strong, very powerful, and it really might come out, like you want to kill someone, like literally you want to kill someone, and it's normal. It's normal, because we have that instinct within us.
Yeah,
that's like self-defense mechanism. It's absolutely normal to want to kill someone, even if there is no one actually there, but that feeling like you want to do that. And that's normal. Like all animals do that. We are animals.
Yeah. I think my
that resonates, Anna.
I think the majority of people would resonate with that.
Well, like it's very much it gives you how I feel about what you said, it kind of gives you the courage to kind of move through it, or I don't know why it's coming, break on through to the other side. Like it's like, yeah, you're stuck and you can move through it, and what's on the other side isn't the effects of being angry in the mind keeping you from doing it because you're afraid you might kill somebody. And I just thought of I spent probably 15 to 18 years doing martial arts in a way to defend myself. It feels like I've been stuck in some physical, as you say, nervous system deregulation for such a long time, and the energy is either high or low. It's never, and always feeling like you had the energy of a couple of people, and the martial arts and all that kind of stuff. It's all how to cope with that. That was how I coped.
And then, like, once you get through anger, then there is, as Vince said, there is deeper yes. There is. Yeah, that's very true. Nothing bad, but there is.
Yeah, I had the thought there.
I've been listening all the time, just snoozing.
Yeah, but when you said that, Anna, I was like, okay, the mind wants to know what's under there, and it's my mind said, well, it's either two things. Then it's either love or annihilation. Maybe it's both.
I haven't got in touch with love yet. But there could be like a very, very, very deep, like a fear, like very, very deep down, and like in your core. Like it feels like in the body, but it feels like that's not even in the body, and it's like this. But there is also that like helplessness, and like that like wanting to die and abandonment, fear of separation, all that beautiful stuff is there as well.
Oh, lovely.
All that beautiful stuff.
Just something to look
Sugarcoating it
forward
there.
to, eh?
And it's all just felt in the body, so you know it's not that bad. No, actually, when you sit with these sensations, it's not, it really is not that bad at all. It's just to allow it to come up, just allow it to come up. Crying, screaming, kicking, shaking, doing whatever it's want to do. Not fear, you know, like that very, very core fear. It really just like, if I was a man, I probably would feel like someone squeezed my balls and just pulling them down.
Oh,
That's
Jesus.
how it feels, you know.
Nation.
That's how it feels. It's like very, very like a strong like contraction in the very bottom of your body, just like, and someone like pulls it down. But also that's okay.
I think the most painful part is not realizing when you're in your head, when you're trapped in your thoughts.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, because once you can drop in the body, head just stops. Head just stops doing anything. It's all body just releasing.
Yeah, that's it. But the thoughts are so hypnotic for you to sort it out there in those thoughts. And that's
But
what I
head
get.
can help. Head, all these stories, they can help to get in touch what is in the body. Because you notice that story, you see what that is about, and you just go into and just feel that, just feels that.
Oh yeah, that's if you can see what the story is, yeah. But like
Yeah.
when I was in the car shopping, it was just a massive confusion. There's no clear story there. There's no clear thought there. It's just a sort of fuzzy,
Yeah.
brain foggy thing, which is
Yes.
really uncomfortable.
Story is not really necessary. It can help to get, but sometimes it's just body itself, just like woof, without a story.
Yeah. I think it's
And
that
I
standing out that's important, standing back from it. If you can do that. Well, there's no one doing it, but I mean, if you know, if that happens, that's the real.
Yeah, you get outside it.
Yeah, you step out of the fire of the mind.
How have you been?
Easier said.
Me?
Yes, how have you been?
I think I'm ashamed today. And I think that underneath it is disgust. Disgust is interesting. It's very, it's also bodily, like, you know, like child that puts something in its mouth and poo.
Yep.
Also, when Anne was talking about vomiting and diarrhea,
It brings up that for you.
yes, it brings up disgust. Just
Yeah.
getting something out
Yep.
of the system, because it's
That very animal kind of behavior.
Mhm. And I was thinking about shame of being weak, too weak to survive. And it is a feeling that mm, I think we are conditioned not to admit to this feeling of disgust for the weak.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very primordial.
Yep. You see
And
in the chooks, if there's one chook that's sick, the other ones will kill it. That's chickens, you know? Yeah.
yeah, yes, I had rats also the same. If a rat is sick, others will trample and
Mm. You can see the logic of that, but yeah, when it comes to humans, it's a different story, isn't it? We expect it to be a different story, but I guess at some level we are just animals, aren't we?
you know, my my grandmother had she was not politically correct because she was from before the war. It was different, and she said something about Paralympics, but oh, it's so awful. All these disabled people should stay at home and not show themselves because it's so disgusting.
Mm, mm. Probably most of her generation felt like that. Maybe not all, but
Yeah,
a
so
lot.
not so long ago.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not medieval times. And for me, in shame, there is this disgust for myself because I am weak. And I want to hide
Mm-hmm.
because it's not safe to show it to the rest of the herd.
Yep. If you do, they'll want to trample you.
To take advantage of me if
Oh.
I'm on the bottom of the hierarchy. Everyone will take their frustration on me.
Mm, mm. Or also, if you're
Being
weak,
outside, it's not the worst. Being a lone wolf is quite nice
yeah,
compared to being in the herd and on
and
the bottom.
and on the bottom, yeah. So have you looked at this idea that you're weak? You know, the disgust comes about that. But have you looked at what that is? What is being weak? Are you really weak? What is being weak? That gets interesting.
Lack of skill.
Lack of skill. Well, gee, by God, there's a lot of weak people around then. Yeah. But you are skilled in some areas, but not in other areas, eh?
to stay, but I've got to go to retreat now. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'd love to listen to you, Bianca, but I have to go. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, it's interesting one because you think, oh, you're weak. You think, oh, yeah, everybody knows what that means. But when you start to look at what does it actually mean, it gets quite difficult to find things. By being, does it mean you're not assertive? Does it mean you're physically sick? Does what does being weak mean? That's quite interesting. Unable to protect yourself? None of those.
Well,
fit you.
there are a lot of skills that we need to survive. And it can be enough to lack one of these to not survive.
Yeah. But you're here, you've survived, so you obviously have those skills.
Yes, it's not. I'm just talking about how these feelings appeared, but not. It's not logical.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is the thing too. A lot of this is not logical, but yet it's real. You know, we have it. It is there, and yet there's no logic to it. Yeah. Well, that tells us something, doesn't it? Things don't need to be logical to exist. Mm.
Can I just say something, Vince, briefly to what you've just said there has inspired me to say, hello, I'm Dennis, and I'm weak too. But you've given me the courage to admit that I'm weak too, and it's more human and fallible and all those things. So there's something courageous about what you're saying.
Have you ever seen a skeptical? I took your look, Bianca, to be skeptical about what Dennis was saying.
No, I think vulnerability is sexy.
I think weakness is strength. And it's funny if someone in the crowd or in the group admits to being weak, what I've seen is that the group bring them out of that and show them ways they're not. And the opposite happens when someone who's too cocky and thinks they're strong, the group tear them down to make them see their weaknesses.
Hmm. See,
I wouldn't make a rule about any
yeah,
behavior.
it could be hard. Yeah, generalize too much. I was having a thing only yesterday, I think it was, or very recently anyway, about courage, and I'm saying, you know, this idea of people who are courageous, it's bullshit. You know, there is no such thing as courage. You know, people do things happen, and then we label it afterwards as courageous. You know, the soldier that runs into the enemy fire to achieve something, he's not courageous. He's probably stupid if he's anything, but he gets a medal for it, and we call it courageous. But people who do courageous things don't do anything because they're courageous. They just do things, and then we label it courageous. So I'm only bringing that up because it's kind of the opposite of weakness, isn't it? Where your disgust lies. So if there's no such thing as courage, maybe there's no such thing as weakness either. Vulnerability, that's a potential, isn't it? It's not actual. It's another concept.
I will say more about the sexiness of vulnerability. When I was a young girl, then it was really nice when I saw that a boy is ashamed in my presence, because then I knew he really cares.
Mm. Yeah. So when he shows that, I would describe that as openness, and you describe that as vulnerability. And they're kind of the same thing in some ways, but not quite, are they? Yeah. So vulnerable almost means able to be hurt. But it's always potential for that. It's never actually that. And there's not much difference between vulnerable and weak if you, in terms of being able to sustain an injury, to be hurt by whatever. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah.
And also, I think that courage or courageous is not an opposite of those, because it needs courage to be open, and it sort of courage, it's just a concept, but it needs this quality to do what we are doing here. Because just to get in contact with our well, I guess what Blanca calls weakness, it does need at least a willingness, but it could also be called courage.
Could be called that, yes. Yeah.
So I don't think all these things are in opposition to each other.
Mm. Yeah, you could be right. Okay, well, I'm going to call a halt. It's after midnight. We could go all night, I suppose, but yeah.
Some of us are going. Are you going over to Todd and Prunella for 2 more hours now, Vince?
I might go for a little while, and then I've got a 5 a.m. one or 5:30 a.m. one. So
Oh my God.
and I haven't slept since. Would you believe I haven't slept since 4 a.m. this morning? So I'm a little
Oh my
tired.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have a snooze at some point. Oh well, maybe see you tomorrow or next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
Vince. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.